So I'll call the meeting to order. We'll call roll when I call your name, state your full name and from the location from where you're joining us. Fred,
Fred Edison, joining you from my house here in Kalamazoo.
Kyle,
Kyle Hibbard from my house in Kalamazoo.
Regina,
Regina Gorham from my house in Kalamazoo.
Catherine,
Catherine White from my home in Kalamazoo.
Lene,
Lene Powell Wilson, home Kalamazoo.
and I'm Joshua Koenig, and I'm at my office at WMU. All right, approval of agenda. Are there any amendments or additions?
Nothing from me.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve. You got that?
Second?
A second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Introduction of guests. Christina, we'll start with you.
Hi, my name is Christina Anderson, and I'm the city planner for Kalamazoo. And I'm going to be talking tonight to follow up with a conversation we had earlier this year about heights in downtown, specifically around Bronson Park, and sun angles and shadows.
Thanks for joining us tonight, Christina. I appreciate it. And Pam.
Pam O'Connor from Kalamazoo, volunteer.
Okay. Any citizen comments on non-agenda items and correspondence?
There are no citizen comments at this time.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. So with that, we'll move to the presentation on the Bronson Park Light and Shadow study, and I'll hand it over to Christina.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen, so bear with me for just a minute. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So again, thank you for having me. And I'm going to apologize if my voice kind of goes in and out. I had a case of laryngitis. Today's the first day where I'm kind of back, but I can kind of feel it wavering. So I'll apologize in advance for the squeaks. Again, my name is Christina Anderson, and I am the city planner. This discussion is a follow-up from a conversation that we had earlier this year following the update of the downtown zoning code, specifically related to concerns about building height around Bronson Park and the potential casting of shadows into the park and the impact that would have, and what we need to be considering moving forward. So I have a couple slides prepared for you to give you an idea, and I can share more information in the full report for anyone who's interested in looking at it. So just a reminder, so prior to the downtown code update, we had everything within that gray box that's on the screen had no maximum height attached to it. And then everything outside of that was downtown. And again, it was zoned all one color rather than multiple. You was allowed to have 2 stories taller than the tallest building within 200 feet. And then the design, there was an exception. Most of Bronson Park was in the unlimited height area. And the design guidelines, noted that area is actually even though it's in the center, the 2 stories taller than the tallest building within 200 feet rules applied. With the update of the downtown zoning, we adjusted that gray area a bit and said anything within that dotted black line, which accounts for all of downtown 1 and downtown 2 districts, there's not a maximum height. All of downtown retained its minimum height of 2 stories like it had before. And then the area outside of that black dash line that was still red is downtown District 3, and that allows buildings up to 5 stories, except if you're doing a civic building, and then you're allowed up to 6. And so that is where we left off the code that was approved last fall. I believe it was in November. So we were kind of left with the question of, particularly in this body, was, unlimited height means what for Bronson Park, particularly with the opportunity to cast shadows and limit the sun in the park. And so I asked professor and a student at Andrews University, their architecture program, to do a sun angle study for us that looked at what downtown looks like right now, or what the area around Bronson Park looks like right now in terms of shadows cast and the angle of the sun in the park. And then played around with different heights to kind of understand at what height do we start to see significant shadows in the park. And again, I'm more than happy to share the PDF document that they made for you. I have a couple snippets of it here in this presentation. I think it's a little easier to read without me blowing it up for a PowerPoint. So I'm happy to share that with you. But let's talk about it. So the image that you see here in front of you, and I'm sorry, it is a little grainy because I tried to blow it up for the slide. What they did is they took buildings around Bronson Park and did it at different angles. And I'm showing you this one in particular. They did it for all 4 seasons. So what shadows are cast in Bronson Park during each season, and playing around with the different heights. Again, their goal was to figure out at what point does the shadowing in the park become significant. And obviously at winter solstice, the shadows are going to be the longest. And so that's why I pulled this slide for you to review today. And so when you look at, the significant shadowing that exists, it tends to come from these buildings along the south block of the park. And that is the way it's shown here right now is that assuming that those buildings were 80 feet tall. What would that mean? That is taller than the buildings that are there now, although First Presbyterian, I believe at its highest peak, where the actual sanctuary is, I think is at or around 70. That's at 80 feet on the south end. That's where they felt that they were that significant shadowing was occurring. And so that's what this is showing. And again, I will follow up this meeting with providing you with the documents so you can see what happens in the spring and summer and the fall. But this is the one with the significant shadowing. So now that we have, with that information and with the goal of not creating significant shadowing in the park, after reviewing the document and talking to Sharon, what we have done is, as many of you may recall, we're also updating the Downtown Design Review Guidelines right now, because a lot of what was in there is redundant with the zoning code. So we're in the process of pulling out what is overlap with the zoning code and just leaving in things like materials and the lighting and the streetscape stuff that's not already regulated elsewhere. And so we are proposing to add language to Downtown Design Review that talks about the block to the south of Bronson Park. And we did the entire, it's actually 2 blocks, right? Because John Street divides it. But, South, Rose, Lovell, and Park, that whole block, that new buildings should have a maximum height. We actually put it at 60 feet. So we took it down 20 feet from what the students thought was, providing significant shadows, just to kind of be sure. And so that is what we're proposing as a result, and to put that in the Downtown Design Review Guidelines. And we can see how that works, and continue to study the area. And, the next time we open up the code and edit the downtown districts, we can figure out how that gets added to the zoning code itself, and if that's appropriate.
So just for those of you who don't understand how it works, how the Downtown Design Review is going to work, right now, Downtown Design Review for new construction and substantial additions goes through the Downtown Design Review Committee and through the Site Plan Review Committee. And what we are going to do with the change is we're going to integrate Downtown Design Review into Site Plan Review. And this applies to every new addition or new building that will go up in the downtown. And it's as binding as, probably more binding than Downtown Design Review is in terms of the impact on the design and the placement and the height, et cetera, of any new construction. So, and that whoever has my position will be sitting on that committee and will be involved in any decision-making about new construction in the downtown. And we'll be applying these downtown design review standards. And then as Christina said later, when they're actually integrated into the zoning code, they'll also be there.
Right, because, you know, as I mentioned, we took out of downtown, most of what we did for downtown, the new updated downtown design review document was to remove anything that was redundant, right? And anything that's not covered in the zoning code remained. Over the next year, we're going to have a new sign code. So that's in downtown design review right now. We're going to have new street design manual. So right now, streets are covered in the downtown design review document. You know, once we have all these updated documents, you know, we will likely be phasing out downtown design review completely, or at least having that discussion, because it will just about everything will be elsewhere, and we'll have to think about how we want to handle those remaining pieces. You know, the goal of this, you know, is to not have redundancy in our review processes, and to make sure that we're requiring what we actually want of developers. And so Sharon, especially with Amanda Cockcroft's help, who's, you know, on this call, although quietly listening in, you know, the document for downtown design review has been, you know, reorganized, simplified, new pictures, new labels. It looks awesome. And it is available. You can get it here. I kind of took a snapshot of the website. You can take a look at it at imaginekalamazoo.com/projects/downtown zoning. And so there's a link. You can contact Sharon or I directly from this page. There's a link to the document. You can provide us with your email and questions and comments. What we're going to be doing is reaching out to those that are in the district and letting them know of this change. Have them ask them for a review of the document, and hopefully get this to City Commission in August for their review. Downtown design review was created with an ordinance, so any changes require the same process. And so that's why we can't just say, you know, we've updated it and, you know, it's ready to go. So right now we're still operating under the existing document. That is what I wanted to come back and update you with. And I wanted to give you the opportunity to ask any questions. I'm going to stop sharing, but if you have questions and need reference of any of those maps that I showed, I'd be happy to, I'll reshare my screen to show any of those. And then again, through Sharon or Josh, I can provide you guys with the PDF illustrations that Andrews University did for each of the solstices. So you can see the other shadow impacts.
Yeah. Thank you, Christina. Any commissioner questions or comments for Christina?
Christina, could you go back, put the
Yep.
simulated diagram of the buildings back up?
Absolutely. This one?
Okay, you're saying the shorter yellow buildings are 80 foot, estimated to be 80 feet high.
Correct.
How tall are the darker, the maroon colored?
Of course, those are listed, those are done at 200 feet right now. So the ones at front, they're on the north end of the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, 200 feet was the number that they put there to give you.
What's there now? What do you think the height of the tallest building?
Well, I think I have that information here. If I can stop sharing for 1 second. I mean, we know that the Kitty Corner building is the Exchange building, right? And that's 15 stories. The Comerica building, which is the one directly to the south of that, is 9 stories. And so that can kind of give you an idea on about how tall they are. If you hold on 1 second, I think I have, as long as I know we don't have internet access right now. So I don't know.
Okay, but that's just, I guess what I'm trying to get at is to get the parameters of what's going to shade the park too much.
Right. So, you know, and that's why I wanted to bring in, that's why I purposely showed the winter, because, you know, it shows you where the shadows are. And, you know, the shadows fall. The buildings that cast the shadows on the park are those on the south side of the park. And so those are the ones that we focused our height, are limiting the height on, because those are the ones that would have the significant impact. But for
Yeah,
each of the seasons, they have, they show you, they kind of go through this in the different angles so you can see.
The buildings to the north, then if they were on the south, they would, in the winter, they would completely shade out the park, it looks like.
Correct. It would be a significant shadow.
But I guess kind of obvious, but I guess I wanted to understand it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And again, so when I talk about the block that has the greatest impact, we're talking about this block right here. So the Park Club, their parking lot, which is obviously could be a potential development site, City Hall, First Presbyterian Church, and the Civic. We did say, however, not just this face, not this block face, but the entire block bounded by South and Lovell would be subject to those restrictions in the design guidelines.
If I may respond, Fred, the character study that I did provides approximate heights for all of the buildings surrounding the park. So they're relatively easy to find.
Yeah, and that was the document I was going to pull up, but I did not. Again, I apologize. Our internet is down. I put for the city right now, they're doing some repairs. I put the PowerPoint on my desktop, but have Pam's document open, but did not do it without my internet. And that has some pretty good notes about, how the height was measured, whether it was measured to the top of the steeple or the peak, or was it measured to the edge of the flat roof. And so that document goes through all of those things as approximate heights.
So let me understand.
Yep.
Your study shows the shadows, and you're going to limit the height of new buildings so that they don't create more of a shadow over the park, correct?
Correct.
So my question is, did you also look at the wind? Okay, work with me. I don't know a whole lot about the wind and the weather and everything, but if you have these buildings that are surrounding this park and it creates a wind tunnel, was that considered along with the shadowing?
No, this study only looked at the shadows and the light that would be cast on Bronson Park.
And I think that would be something that would have a minimal impact, because the buildings that currently surround the park are not really likely to be replaced anytime soon, and probably for the next century even, because they're that important. Maybe the ones at the east end, that's the newer construction, and where we might get that sort of a canyon effect of having tall buildings on each side, would probably not be around the park. The existence of the park itself would almost make that unlikely, because it's an open space.
Pam.
Whenever the commission is done asking its questions, I'll fall in behind.
Any other commissioner comments or questions right now for Christina or Sharon? Okay, Pam.
Thank you, Josh.
You're welcome.
I appreciate the fact that that study was done, and am not surprised to hear that there was some significant shade that might be cast on the park from the buildings along the south side. However, that is the south side only. And I'd like to know what provisions will be in the Downtown Design Review Code to protect the character of the area. And where does that leave the character study and recommendations that I provided to the commission 6 months ago, however long it was?
So from the city's perspective, the character we feel is covered between what remains in downtown design review, which is the materials that existed before, and that information, combined with what is in the form-based code, which talks about building entrance, transparency, making sure that the buildings are relating to each other and to the street and are appropriately placed. From the city's perspective as it relates to, general character and general urban form, we believe that we have those details covered. From the perspective of zoning, that is not the same thing, obviously, as a historic district that goes beyond and regulates additional details.
Thank you, Christina. With all due respect, I think there's more here than what is generally covered then between downtown design review and the new code. It is a National Register Historic District. It's one of the oldest ones we have. It's one of the oldest developed parts of the city as it was growing and identified and platted. And I think the area deserves more than what it's getting.
Pam, about the new DDRC, the revised DDRC, I think you should take a look at it. Almost a third of it specifically deals with historic buildings. The requirements for existing buildings, even ones that are not historically designated, require that the historic character of the existing buildings be respected and retained wherever possible.
That's existing buildings, right?
Yeah, I know. So that's historic buildings of every kind, whether it's inside the district or out. So Mr. President's and the building on the corner of South North Rose and West Kalamazoo, all the buildings, whether they're listed on the National Register or not, the requirement for any existing building is that we respect the historic character of it and try not to get rid of historic details or cover them or alter them in any way, even outside the historic districts. In the historic districts, every time I've talked to the city attorney about this, the historic district trumps DDRC. So the historic district, those are very well protected. So
sorry, go ahead.
There's a lot of protection already built into our historic buildings in the DDRC code that is going to be adopted and shift. It's going to be, the new one's going to be adopted. It was already there. And then it's going to be shifting over into the zoning code as this process goes on.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, without the support of private property owners around the park, I'm not sure how much more protection we can build into DDRC or the zoning code than we already have with form-based code and with the with form-based code and with the what's in the DDRC guidelines.
So I put up, just so everyone could see, this is the updated copy of the downtown design review document. This material, what is in here was not significantly changed. Again, what was removed were the building location, transparency, entrance, and those type of details. And so, talking about building materials, talking about inappropriate materials, all of that was retained. Talking about window location, secondary facades, of course, cornices and roofs, how you handle mechanical and service areas. What are you doing when you are rehabbing a facade? Those details are not in the zoning code, so that, those, when you talk about rehab specifically, those are in here. And then from here forward, talks quite a bit about the local significant buildings. And the appendix has the map in it of all the local, all of the districts in downtown and the significant buildings in town. And again, all of that was retained from the prior, from the document that exists today. So I just wanted to bring that up. And again, that is, this is available on imaginekalamazoo.com/projects/downtown zoning. We didn't create a new page for it. We just added it to the already existing downtown zoning page.
Thanks, Christina. I will look at it. I'm happy to look at it. I would have been happy to look at it before the meeting tonight, but without knowing what it actually says, I'll reserve any further comment at this point. Thank you.
Any other last questions or comments for Christina before we move on?
I was just, this is
Oh,
Regina. I was just also going to say thank you, Christina. And if after looking through the report, the full report, if we have more questions, do you want us to talk to Sharon and talk to you or talk to you directly?
Either one, whatever is easier for you.
Great.
You all can get a hold of both of us. So
Okay.
whatever works for you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, Christina.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll move on to the financial report. Lene.
So, I gotta bring it up myself. Hold on. Oh, okay. So I put together the financial report from 2020, and obviously we didn't have a budget for 21, so I don't have that. And then the budget for 2022. We didn't have a Marcy Dix sent the updated budget or the updated report, financial report, and there's no sense in you looking at it because it's a bunch of zeros because we did nothing all year. So there was no need to show you that. But going down the list, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know any changes. But as far as the historic preservation sales, that includes the lost and found and everything, that I dropped down to $200. I figured that there may be some residual toward the end of this year because it doesn't close out. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pam, until December.
I'm not sure where you are on the document.
The very first line, 2022 budget under the column.
Right, but where under that are you talking specifically about lost and found?
That's the historic preservation sales.
Oh, okay.
The lost and found book and other things were in that, but you're closing out. So I just put $200 because they were budgeting in the past like $1,000 and $2,000, but you're closing out by the end of December. So I just put $200 just for the leftovers.
Well,
And is this?
And we don't even know that yet. Too, based on,
Right.
on what we talk about tonight too. So
Right.
Okay, well, let me know if you need me to put that back to $2,000 because that's what they have for 2020.
So can I ask a question? This is the revenue side. Is that correct?
This is revenue. This is
Okay. I can tell you that it's going to be probably between $2,000 and $3,000 and maybe more because of our final sales.
Now, keep in mind, this doesn't start until October.
Right.
No, this doesn't start until January of 2022.
That's right. It has
This
to
is
be
the
done
2022 budget.
October. Right.
Okay.
So
I'm pretty sure right now that we'll have no more sales after that, assuming you all can act to help me move things along.
well, like I said, that's why I just put $200.
Yeah,
just
that makes
some
sense.
Might be hanging out.
Yeah.
But by no means, I didn't think after December, you'd have any $2,000 income after that.
No.
And
no.
that was the biggest income was the lost and found book. So unless anybody can think of any other income we were having that I'm not aware of.
Well, and that's part of the goal of this commission this year is to figure out something to replace, basically to swap out for, right? But that's on a little bit of a hold right now until we figure out what's going on with the new book and other ideas and other opportunities as well. So something may take its place. We just don't know yet. Something will take
also,
place, but we don't know what that is. So,
okay, I also, now that I'm thinking about it, what about the, oh, how? I think we were planning on doing workshops next year. Does that income count as a profit, or is it just paying for the bills?
Last time, it just really, the money that came in from the students covered the expenses, and the commission and the O'Connor Fund paid the instructors. So it really is kind of a wash.
So it's not,
Yeah.
yeah, so unless there's any other sales, does everybody agree to $200? I mean,
I think that's fine for now.
okay. The fundraising. I put $1,000, but again, this is another, I don't know. What are we?
But this is really great, Lene, because usually we don't even begin this discussion till like August.
Mhm.
So
Right.
as start to get the process of discussing it started, this is great to have it this early.
Yeah. And again, as I go down the list, you're probably gonna say that's what we're gonna talk about today. So I'm just throwing it out there. Private donations and contributions. In 2019, they had $200. I don't know who's giving money, so I'm not. Of course, it'd be nice to get some of that WMU money that just came in.
No kidding.
Let's see. Education and training. What I did was I put $300, but there was my next question. The membership is for the commission is paying for every commissioner. So I think it's $75. So 75 times, how many of it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I just put the 300 what they had before, but I wasn't clear. Is that okay to do that?
Mhm.
75 times 7? Okay, so we'll do that. I'll change that.
Well,
That's a revenue item, is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's membership and dues. I'm sorry. You're right.
Mhm.
But training, I don't know. Again, I didn't know anything of, what you did in the past for education and training for revenue. So,
it wouldn't be revenue. It would be an expense.
right. But I'm saying on this revenue, education and training was under revenue in 2019, the $300. So I just brought it over, but I didn't know if you did anything extra.
That could have been income from Hidden Kalamazoo tours. That's considered education. I'm not sure how it appeared, but that could be construed as education, right?
Then there's another one we don't have in, because we don't do that anymore. So there's that. And I zeroed that yellow line out. And then the working capital, that's how much pretty much you got already in your account, the $6,000. And then the bank fees, $50, outside contracting services, $5,000. I think this included the website guy. What's his name? Pam.
Well, if you're talking about Peter Brakeman, he's the graphics designer
Yes.
that helped us with the logos, the OHA logo, and is now helping us with the Kalamazoo Lost and Found digitization.
Yes.
And I would say that's probably appropriate given what I know so far.
Okay.
It's probably over by quite a bit, but better to be over than under, I guess.
Yep.
It's a lot easier to dial back an amount than it is to dial it up.
Mhm.
Okay. Yep.
So this is the approach to take.
Okay. And then, like I said, I'm talking earlier, the membership and dues, that's what I did. I'll do 75 times 7, and that'll be that.
Lene,
Huh?
with a full commission though, it would be 75 times 8.
Oh, 8.
No.
I'm sorry.
Why 8?
We're down one member right now.
We're only 7 members in the commission.
Am I counting wrong? I am counting wrong. Never mind. You're right. You're right. Sorry.
Because my memberships and all
Right.
that kind of stuff come out of my money for the city, from the city, so.
Right. That's right. I was including you. So,
Okay.
okay, never mind.
All right, 7 times 7. All right, so I'll fix that. And then, so do we agree on our revenue and expenses for the commission, period?
Mhm.
Everybody, I'm gonna make changes to the membership dues. And I'm gonna leave everything else okay, right?
Yeah, I think that looks good.
Yeah, okay.
This is a great first draft.
Absolutely.
Now, moving on to O'Connor fund. This is where it kind of got dicey because I couldn't. So I have the interest on investments. So I just put in $100. I need to take a peek at your, no. I need to take a peek at your account. Cause I don't know what your interest in things are. So I need to go back and get that.
Okay, so if in fact you're creating, this is part of the annual budget for the Preservation Commission, I'm not sure it should even be there.
Yeah.
Because it is a totally separate instrument. It never passes through the city.
It's totally
Okay.
separate. That doesn't get factored into this commission's budget whatsoever. We
Okay.
don't need to
But-
worry about that.
I could see it as a footnote, that says the Historic Preservation Commission has as an asset to work with, the O'Connor
Right, and end of the
Fund or something like
year-
that. But it's not anything that we manipulate directly.
Yeah, it doesn't, there's no cross fertilization of the funding until the time it comes out.
Mhm.
And I don't see it as part of the budget. I see it as an addendum report, maybe an annual report, an end of the year report.
Mhm.
And either Sharon and I can help you get those figures if
Okay.
you'd like to have them.
Okay.
I probably can do it a little bit more quickly because I look at it frequently.
Okay.
But that,
So
it seems to be a better place because I find all of this very confusing.
Yeah, well, then scratch that. Then scratch everything from we'll just look at the Kalamazoo Historic Commission.
Correct, right.
document.
Okay,
And keep in mind that the city's fiscal year is the calendar year.
okay.
So we're not like the federal government where fiscal
Right,
2022 starts in October.
right.
We follow, it's so much easier.
Okay. All right, so there it is. So the only change I need to, what I'm gonna take off O'Connor Fund, and the only change is I need to increase the membership.
You're gonna take off the O'Connor Fund from the budget, but you're gonna add an addendum to the report,
That's
right?
Right, it'll be a separate report.
Okay, I can get that information for you.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that looks good.
Yeah,
Okay, and that should keep us on track. So, okay, so now let's look at the bottom. So we actually were supposed to do this last month. So come August, if someone could please put us on the agenda for August. So no. So we can go over this and make any final changes. Yes.
So,
Sorry. Yes.
so if this can be put on the August, well, theoretically, and we'll talk about August, if the commission decides to meet in August. But in between there, the budget will need to be discussed with Marcy. And then once discussed with Marcy, brought back to this commission and then voted on.
Okay. Well, one thing I thought maybe we can discuss it in August is because we're about to discuss some additional things that you just said, such as the fundraising and everything else. So I want to give you a clean copy first before I present to Marcy. That was my thought process.
Mhm,
yeah. She needs it by, I think her drop dead date is sometime in November.
mhm.
Right. And
So
I have
we-
it on there, October or November.
Yep.
If we can meet in August and then we can get all of our numbers for the final draft, we'll call it, for the August, and then we can look at it again and do some finalization before I discuss with Marcy.
Pam?
I think there's something that you might want to edit or add
Okay.
to the expense side.
Yes.
Traditionally, the commission has paid for conference registrations for members. And I don't see that noted here. It could go into the line item that is currently reads membership and dues.
Okay.
It could be expanded to say membership dues and conference expense, or
How much is that usually?
I don't know how long it's been since any of the commissioners attended a conference, or because it's not my job to keep track of that.
But I guess the question is like, what amount should we budget for? What amount does the commission want to budget for?
I can send you a couple of old budgets that maybe a couple years old before COVID, when we actually did budget an amount, because attending a conference can be as little as $100, like it has been for 2021 and 2020 for MHPN, because it's a virtual conference, and it can be as much as like $700
Okay.
if we get the membership. Let me finish, Pam.
Yeah, I'm not talking.
If we give them the registration and hotel and help with transportation. So it really depends on what the conference is, because in the past I have been supported to go to a National Trust conference out of state, and it was a fairly substantial sum. Okay. And other times it's just nobody uses it. So I think that looking at what we had used as a budget amount in the past would really help. I mean, I think that just ballpark guesstimate somewhere around $1,000 might be good. Keep in mind that the way the budget works, this allows us to spend the money on that specific item, but does not require that we actually spend it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so maybe for August or before August, maybe we want to ask people to look around and see what they might be interested in going to, so we can discuss it and see if that's a budget we want to put in. You know, we can say if this conference is $1,000 for one person, maybe not. Or if it's $100, maybe not.
And right now, with the proliferation of virtual conferences and special topic webinars, you know, where it might be like $25 or $50 to go to a webinar that's especially interesting, I think that's the sort of thing we could cover as well. So, yeah, we've got more options today than we had in the past to maybe make our money go further than having just a single person attend with all the expenses that go with that.
So why don't we have everybody kind of look around and see what you'd like to go to? What would be interested, so we can.
I think the only problem with that will be the pricing is probably not going to be listed right now.
Yeah, because we don't know.
We can only base it off of what was done like this year and last year, maybe, because nobody's going to have the cost out yet.
Right, but I mean, trust, it's not gonna be that drastic. I mean, it might be a couple of $100 off, but we just want a ballpark so we know what we want to agree to.
Well, and that's why looking at previous budgets would be a good idea too. Pam, you have your hand up.
Yeah, in my recollection, while we may have paid for Sharon's entire budget or conference expense, that's never been offered to the commissioners. Only registration, not travel, not accommodations. Right. And the high end of that is $400 a person over the last 10 years. The low end of that is probably $200 a person. I don't know what camp costs, Sharon. I don't know that we've ever extended, or the Preservation Commission has ever extended that to the Historic District Commission. I don't recall if that's ever happened, but I would say $200 to $400 is safe. And if we continue to offer virtual conferences, many of them are going for, as Sharon said, $100 or so a person.
Yeah, camp is kind of a total separate category, because that's kind of starts at $7,000 and goes up.
Oh, nice.
For live in person.
Yeah.
instructors. Okay,
But that's for everyone. Right? That's for the entire commission, not an individual.
that's for bringing the instructors in to teach.
Right.
Okay, for NAPC, the average conference is between 200 and 300. And that's
But
for
see,
the
I think there's a distinction between the two. One is commissioner education and one is commissioner conference
correct,
attendance.
correct. Yeah, and we just had a camp here in Kalamazoo in March of 2019 that was paid for by SHPO.
Mhm.
So we've had, camp is the commission, something, I can't remember, mentor. Anyway, but it's from the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions. They bring instructors in and they teach you about how to run a historic district commission meeting, how to make your decisions, the legalities and everything else. It's an absolutely great program, but it's something that usually is done with help from the state preservation office or help of some kind of a grant, because it is, the least it is $7,000. Now, lately they have been doing them virtually, and I'm not sure what the price point is today, but our commission has had really good training over the last couple of years. I don't think they're going to be due for that level of training again for at least another year or two. When it flips over again, we get more new commissioners.
Yeah, but like you said, there are SHPO grants for that too.
Yes,
And-
absolutely, there are. Absolutely. And some, we have allied in the past with, like worked with Battle Creek in Holland and kind of co-sponsored trainings so
Mhm.
that we get a whole bunch of people together to do them all at once, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And you're right, Pam, that would be education. That wouldn't be memberships and dues. So,
So that's all I got for now.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Lene?
Just a comment. Thank you.
Yeah, this is
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing it, Lene.
Thank you.
yay.
okay. Moving on to action items, diversity and inclusion. Regina, the reservation education program.
Yeah, I know David
Yeah,
got
I figured,
on, so he didn't think he was gonna make it to our meeting, but he's here, or sort of is here. There he is. David, did you want me to run through the stuff from the last meeting that you covered in the outline, or did you want to do that because you've got an update from John for today?
Well, you can certainly do that, but what I've got is, let me, if you can cover a little bit in outline, what I can do then is pop up something on the screen, because I've been working with John Shaganabi, and we've moved through the process of figuring out the way we want these 4 signs to be configured. And I've bounced that back with Rachel Nielsen at OCOB, and I think we're pretty well set to get going. So if you want to give a little bit of background, then I'll discuss those details or put a picture on the screen.
Okay. So the signs that he's talking about, where a lot of the work right now is centered on the mound, specifically in the park, and between getting the information about the radar study out to the public, combined with having a very present, basically education platform to teach people about the mound and the history of the mound, present in the park, and then also reflected online, specifically with working with KPL. So what David's talking about, the 4 signs, so they're going to be basically along the same design as all the ones that are going into the park. So that's the mention of Rachel. That's the
You want me to bring you the copy of it so you can read it too? Got it right here.
that's the contractor who the city is working with on the rest of the signs in the park. And Sharon, if I'm not wrong, they also worked on everything that is in the Memorial Crescent.
They've been, Kyle Blaylock has been deeply involved in the park.
Yeah.
For what, Pam, over a decade?
Oh, yeah, maybe longer than that.
Yeah, they're probably the most in-depth people. They really understand the park in a profound way because they've been working very hard on it. They were part of the people, I think, that helped to prepare the original report, the original plan.
Yeah. So that is working on now, and I think John has gotten, or David and John have gotten answers to some of the questions that were kind of outstanding, like how many words can go on the side, like what kind of word count are we working with, like what can we do here? But right now the timeline basically that's pushing everything forward is there's a meeting next week, and then June 24th, Lakota Pochedli, the preservation officer for the tribe, is presenting the Bronson Park plans for the mound to tribal council. And then shortly after that, there are going to be bids on the landscaping plan that will go out to go along with the plantings that are being planned for the mound, press release and everything with that. End of August 29th is the 200-year anniversary of the Treaty of Chicago. So there will be an event, basically, a tribe-driven event to talk about that history. And then going into September is when we're aiming for website stuff to be all updated. And then kind of capped off with Indigenous Peoples Day, October 11th, having the Gun Lake tribe having a ceremony and blessing at the site of the mound.
Yeah.
And I will, Sharon, I will send this to you because I just said a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
And if I can get to figure out how to share my screen, can anybody see that?
Amanda, can you let him share?
Yes, no?
I don't know, David, go to the bottom of your screen where you see all our faces and see if share screen pops up. Run your.
Yeah, it did, and I popped it.
Okay, and you can't share?
Hold on. Dun, 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 dun.
Try clicking on share screen. There you go. You got it.
Okay.
Yep, you're up.
So this is what we've been working on for the last week or so, and we've been bouncing it back and forth with John and with Rachel. So this is what the 4 signs are going to be like. Each one will carry a different focus. As you can see, the first one will be pre-contact history, thousands of years. Then one on focusing on the mound, what it is, what it represents, how we know that. Then one on local history, reservation, treaties and removal. And then one on local history, the resilience and ongoing contribution of the Gun Lake Band. Now, just as the 4 different locations represented the 4 different cardinal directions on the part of the Anishinaabe Circle of Life, we're going to lay these out again in the same fashion. Each sign is going to have a focused text about one of those topics, about that particular topic. They'll be allowing about the mound, especially please respect the mound. It represents ancestral ritual. A line referring to the Gun Lake Band itself. And then 1 or 2 QR codes to link to the websites, both the tribal website and also the relevant section of the stuff that we're going to be putting up at the KPL on the Next Exit, and the stuff that came from Next Exit History, and also the information about the mound. And we'll also be able to carry 1 or 2 images. Then the websites themselves will be able to carry the text from each of those signs. There'll be additional text relating to each sign in the story. Most of that's written. It's just a question of editing it, correcting it, and chopping it into segments that we can link to directly. We have lots and lots of images that came off of Next Exit History, and most of those can be found in the KPL site. And then we're also going to be providing a link to the in-person videos that we shot for Next Exit History. Then we'll also have hot links to additional sources and so on. And one of the things we thought would be nice is to have some of the words that we talk about that are important to the Native community spoken in Potawatomi, so that people will have a sense of how they sound. So that's about where we're going. I'm going to get this out to the rest of the committee, and we're going to start working on those various aspects, picking the text. I guess Regina's going to be our lead person in working with Keith over at the library. I'll be working with John to do some editing on that text, and I think we're moving forward in a fairly fast way. I'm going to see if I can get rid of this now. I don't know what to click.
David, is there a way I can get a copy of what you have there? Is there a way to do a screenshot? I don't know how to do that on the laptop.
David, if you send it to me, I can just send it to, or if you're going to send it to the commission, we can send it to Sharon to include in the notes.
Yeah, well, I'm going to
Okay,
send it out to the committee that we've been working with, including, John and Phyllis and Jody and Lakota.
I can get it. I can get it included in the notes when
Yeah,
it gets sent out.
you're gonna receive a copy of that
Yeah.
too, probably in the next day or so. And Sharon should also get a copy, and Jeff Chamberlain, so.
Yeah, and sorry,
I-
Sharon.
I have a question. If, I know that this stuff is not for the general public yet, but what I produce in the notes, once it goes up in, say, next month's meeting, it'll be on the web to be approved and it'll become into the public domain.
I think we need to wait on that.
Oh, that's what I was thinking exactly. And so I wanted to double check with you. So I'm
Okay.
thinking that this sort of thing probably will wait to be included in my notes officially, probably till the August or maybe even the September meeting, because we just don't want to release anything in advance of,
Right.
before things start going. So,
Yeah,
and I'll keep it in my record, but it just won't go into the notes.
right, as Regina said, the
Yeah,
first
you're
real
right.
public announcement of this is gonna be taking place at the end of June, and that'll be pretty much working with the tribe. And then there'll be something in August, which will be more or less, probably at that point, August 29th, all of this information should be accessible to the public.
Okay, so I'm just gonna hold off till the end of August.
Yep,
Yeah,
Anything
the,
other than referencing that we talked about it,
right,
that will be as far as whatever goes into my notes will be.
yeah.
yeah. Thank
And
you for pointing that out, Sharon.
unofficially, Reed, if there's anything, Fred, if there's anything you need to know, just give me a whistle and I'll be glad to work with you on it.
Well,
We'll
Rachel has
contact you
provided some of the
directly,
plans
okay.
for me, so I'm pretty happy with my level of understanding of the project right now.
Okay, good. Well, then, I'll get back to my my wife, who is patiently sitting here with a glass of cold wine and a cracker and cheese waiting for me.
David, can you stop sharing your screen, please?
I'm sorry?
Can you stop sharing your screen, please?
How do I do that now?
Go up to the top of your screen, and it should give you the option to stop screen share.
I don't see that here.
Or how about it maybe at the bottom?
Well, there it is. Let's see. Resume, share, new share, stop video. How will that do?
Oh, there, now you're gone.
Okay. Have a good afternoon, folks.
No, we need you to clear the screen for us.
Yeah.
What do I need to do?
If you go to the top, it will say stop share. And once you
So-
press it, it'll take it off.
So run your cursor on the top. There you got it.
There you go. Thank
Perfect.
you, David.
Bye, David. Enjoy the wine.
Thank you.
Pam,
Am I incorrect in understanding that this is a public meeting and it's being recorded, including David's screen share?
yes.
It's live.
Okay, and it's recorded and available on the city's website, yes?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, sorry about that.
it's kind of out there then,
It's a-
right?
It is, but it's not the same as having a document that goes to the clerk's office.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point that out.
Well, it's a tentative document. We haven't yet officially adopted it.
Yep.
That part I get.
And it doesn't go into any of the information about what was found. So, and I think that's part of what's really important. So,
Right.
Yeah, and the KPL link is not live.
Yeah.
That's being saved until it gets, because it needs a ton of updating now.
Right.
So we're just going to use the text that gets created in part for the signs and everything, and
Right.
it'll be great.
It will.
So,
It will. I look forward to finally getting it done.
I bet.
moving on to preservation programs, there is no grant making report, correct, Pam?
Yes, and you may or may not have received my emails, Josh, Sharon, and Regina. The last 6 weeks at my house has been quite crazy. I had no idea that things were going to move as quickly on getting lost and found, sold and dispersed and all of that, and I'll tell you more about that later. But we've also been experiencing some personal changes in our life. It's all good, but it's just taken a lot of upkeep right now. So forgive me for that. I hope I'll get back to it next month. I may or may not have a report because we probably will not have met yet.
Okay. Moving on to OHAL.
Right, that's me again. We met a week ago Monday, and after a lot of conversations that had to do with timeliness of getting things from pre-production into production and then to air, particularly the last 3 or 4 episodes, and also because Sharon's going to be retiring at the end of the year. We also, Lene, I think you remember we talked about maybe going back to in-person sessions next summer. We agreed to suspend planning for OHAL videos for next year. And that doesn't mean there won't be some, but I think the idea was to step back and let Lene lead the commission post Sharon's retirement into a new discussion about how that might look.
Okay.
Right.
That's pretty much it.
We also, we don't know what the person is going to backfill Sharon, what their ideas are. So we just want to make sure that we respect that too.
Okay. Moving on to sidewalk markers and historic sites. Sharon.
Well, this is just quick ideas because when I was talking with Dan, our new neighborhood activator, he's come from Fort Wayne, and he was telling me about some projects that they have done in Fort Wayne to mark historic sites that are not necessarily standing up big green cast aluminum markers. Okay, one of the things they have done is they have embedded plaques in the sidewalk in front of a historic site, not unlike they do in Germany and much of Europe to commemorate historic sites. And they have actually laser cut into concrete that's going into the sidewalk so that it's literally written in the sidewalk itself. And as he pointed out, when everybody's walking around like this nowadays, looking down at their phone, the chance of it being seen may actually be higher than it might have been in the past. And he says that weather-wise, it doesn't cause a problem down there. It doesn't seem to hold ice or make things any worse than they normally are. In fact, in some cases, it improves traction. And so while I was in the process of thinking about laser engraved masonry materials, I started looking at things like memorial bricks, like you could buy a memorial brick for your grandfather who died in World War II and that type of thing. And those are, and it occurred to me that might also be a way. Let's say people in the historic district wanted a way to mark their house. They could buy, it might even be a fundraiser, they could buy a brick engraved with the name of their house and the year that it was built and set it into their personal sidewalk, set it into a post that's part of the house, whatever they wanted to do. And that would be another way to mark the buildings as we, move around the city. There's something like 3 lines of text on the brick is something like $30.
Oh, wow.
And when you think about that, you could I could see someone going crazy doing a whole border along their sidewalk, but nonetheless, that might be something else to consider. So what I want us to do as we think about possible historic markers or possibly marking historic sites is to think outside the box of big cast plaques and into other ways that can be relatively permanent and still, I think, and not cost an awful lot of money. Dan's going to Fort Wayne this weekend, and he's going to bring back a whole bunch of pictures of some of the engraved sidewalks for me so we can kind of get an idea of what that might be. So this is mostly, I wanted to talk about this just to give you an idea of something to think about as we move into the process of marking historic sites that have as yet been either ignored or pushed aside in Kalamazoo's history in a way that we don't have to worry about the National Register's requirements for architectural integrity. We just say, this is where the Peeler Street neighborhood was, where a group of African-American families had truck farms and, lived on the side of this hill below Kleinstock, something like that, so that we can mark things without necessarily going to the expense or going through the process of a historical marker, a formal historical marker. It could be our own program. Kalamazoo's local historic sites. Fred?
I like the physical, tangible nature of the marker. They were pushing the QR code on buildings at the town I came from in Colorado 10 years ago. And I didn't like it, but I'm not onto the phones. I'm not into the internet. That was, you'd go to a building and there'd be your barcode
Mhm.
and you get the history of the barcode around the town. How is that? Has that been something that's been popular still, or?
We talked about that when we were talking about before the fountain was taken away. We were talking about that as being something that would be integrated into some of the markers in the park. And I really like the idea, but also since the 1970s, when I first started being aware of computers, I have seen that type of technique come and go. And I would hate to commit to a process. You know, I could see maybe there being a small, for an important historic building, there might be the ability to put a small marker that's the QR code. But because what that means is that you have somehow maintained the site that the QR code takes you to. And that means someone's got to be maintaining that site. Otherwise,
Gotcha.
it's just a pretty fancy checkered block.
Yeah.
Catherine?
I was going to say too that just in my experience in the museum world at work, we've had some interesting discussions with some consultants who talked about the very low likelihood of people actually using the QR codes. People aren't always willing to do it, even though it might be quite simple. So I know that in my work, we moved away from those things just because of the research that had been done about people not wanting to use them.
They're just, they're not, that it's
I
too
wanna
much
say-
to bother. But if
Right.
it's engraved right there in the ground, in the sidewalk,
Yeah,
you take a
think
minute
that's
to think
fantastic.
about it. And then,
yeah, I think that's great, Sharon. I want to say, like, any way to give context in a way that's budget friendly, I think is
Mhm.
fantastic, and that's
I like
creative.
that word. I like budget
Yeah.
friendly.
Right.
Yeah, right. I think that would be awesome. And I know that, and forgive me if this is something that Kalamazoo does. I still feel quite new to the area. But other historic districts, of course, utilize very simple ways, signage and such to indicate a home's build date, right? Like you mentioned with the
Yes.
bricks. I think
Yep.
it's like a very simple way to just nod to the history and make people think as they walk on the block and admire these old houses. It just brings them back. I think it's a present reminder. So any way that we can remind people that this is preserved, this is history, that's a great thing to do. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple places, maybe only one left in town now, that for the bicentennial, there was a historic project that the county ran where they would accept documentation, then they give you this little sign that would say bicentennial, name of the house and the year it was built. There's one left on Davis Street. I haven't found any place else anywhere in the city. And I have no idea where the reports reside that make that decision. But I would love to see something like that as well. I think that engages people. They can learn to do a little bit of research about their house, find out what's already been found out, and then, mark it in some way. And I
Right.
think that's with the beginning to have a higher trend of owner occupied homes in our historic districts. I think that could be a point of pride that people might be very interested in.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's great. All of it. Great. I'm on board.
Lene, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I smell fundraiser. That's the thing. You talk about having a brick or some kind of marker for the historical buildings and structures. What about if we just offer it to anyone and we sell those bricks and we design the brick? We can have the year that the house or building was built and put whatever, and then I think that would be awesome because like if it was a brick, I could buy me one for $50 or whatever, and then I can plant it in the ground myself. But I want a brick that came from the Historic Preservation Commission. You understand what I'm saying? So I think that would be an interesting fundraiser.
I found a group called Bricks R Us, and they specialize in engraved brick fundraisers. And they give you a price for this is what it'll be. You can have just simple text. You can have up to so many lines. You can even have like a little logo. So if you have a logo for the program, that could go at one end. And then they do a custom brick for each party. and then you just price them where you want to price them to allow for your fundraising. You know, so shall I include a little bit of information about that in our packets for next month? Not necessarily that we'll make any decisions to do it, but just the idea of gathering information together about different ways we can use to mark historic buildings or historic sites that are not necessarily run by the National Trust or the Michigan Marker Program.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I wonder too, I like the idea of the brick, because it seems quite permanent, right? But I wonder about the ease of people, you know, adding that to their property, cement or whatever. I used to live in the Berkeley Royal Oak area outside Detroit, and I remember the Royal Oak Historical Commission, was selling, I'm looking at their website now, they were selling plaques that could be placed on a house or business indicating the year the structure was built. They cost like $70. And any building that was at least 50 years old was eligible. So I wonder if it could be a brick, it could be a plaque or something. I know Traverse City's Historic District Commission does something similar as well. I don't know, just thought.
But you know, it becomes the idea of, hey, guess
Right.
what? I got a brick from the historic preservation.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So
And keep in mind, we have a sesquicentennial coming up.
Mm.
Is that what it is? Or the 250th anniversary of the revolution? The bicentennial was 1976, and we've got 250 coming up with 2026. This might be something that we just kind of percolate until we're ready to like really launch it maybe in 2024 and get people really engaged with this. So by the time that holiday hits, we're going to have quite a, you know, might have quite an impact.
Pam, and then I want to get moving on, but go ahead, Pam.
I administered 2 programs in Buchanan for putting historic dates on properties in their 2 National Register historic districts. And it is a really great thing, but I would encourage you all to think very deeply about the time that it takes to administer the program. It took a lot of time, lots of emails. We had a set of forms that we thought left no question unanswered. And guess what? We got lots of questions, mostly because people weren't looking at the materials, but it ran for about 4 years. And I have to say, given that between the 2 National Register districts that we created down there, which means somewhere in the neighborhood of 850 individual properties, I don't think we had more than 70 people actually mark their buildings. And there was a lot of time involved. We got them all marked, but there was a lot of time involved. And if I hadn't been doing it on a volunteer basis, it probably would have been pretty expensive for them to do.
Yeah. So things to think about. We can.
Absolutely. This is just, you know,
Yeah.
fodder for ideas, basically.
Right.
And some of the sites, the Bricks R Us site, I think what it is once you set up a program with them, you don't have to order them all at once, but they take care of it. They have very clear parameters. This is what you can put on it. This is the most you can put on it, etc. And then the money just comes back to us. You just order through them. They ship the brick directly to the homeowner, and then the money just comes to us.
Yeah.
So they've kind of streamlined it, but I mean, and we'll see how well it works. I'm gonna look for reviews and stuff too, but I was pretty impressed with what I saw. And they've mailed me a brick, but I haven't opened it yet. A sample brick.
Fair. Okay, moving on to the survey. That's item B in your packet. And Sharon.
Yeah, so this is where we stand right now. It's kind of going, the survey, we're doing over 4,000 properties, so that's 1/6 of all the buildings in the city. I think that's really, really good. With Dan, our new neighborhood activator, I'm going to ask him to send out as a way for him to have a reason to contact all the neighborhoods, and ask for more people to sign up and to help. But this is not going to be my primary project over the summer. I'm hoping to have it rebooted and back up to full strength come like September, because right now I have a year's worth of deferred projects coming into the Historic District Commission, and people are like in a tearing hurry to get it done now. So I can't set aside someone who needs a new roof for the survey, much as I would like to say that was more important. So, but we're doing well. I do have, now let me see if this is still up again. I mentioned the MDOT survey report. Let me see if I can bring that back up because we've got our email, or excuse me, our internet connection back up. Come on, where are we? Oh, there it is. Takes a minute to load. So they surveyed the full report is over 5,000 pages. Okay, so it's absolutely massive. This is what the report looks, or the map looks like, the area that they've covered. Down here in the lower left, that's Howard and Stadium. Goes through the city, loops around Michigan, covers Kalamazoo Avenue, and then out Michigan Avenue and Kalamazoo Avenue till they meet again, and then all the way up to Riverside Cemetery. And the peachy colored blocks that you see are areas that are already designated as historic. There is an error on this in that this blue area should be the West Main Hill Historic District, which is designated, but blue means that it's potentially eligible to be designated as a historic site. And so all these blue spots that you see are pretty much the same places that we've already recognized as being potentially historic. And then Riverside Cemetery out here. So this is the area that their report covers. And it's just absolutely massive. It's just absolutely massive. And I will be getting a complete copy of the report probably in August or September when MDOT people are back in their offices. And it's so big, she's going to have to send it to me on a DVD, but we will be able to use that as a reference document for the report writing we're doing for the survey.
Okay.
So if anybody really wants a lot of shelf space to be taken up with something, let me know. But I was really impressed with it. And Sigrid from MDOT is just super helpful. She's always willing to try to help and get the information out to people. So it's really nice to work with her. So I just wanted to mention that that's what's coming up. That's that. So that's right now the survey is doing okay. If anybody out there would like an assignment, I have done a total evaluation of all the sites, all the places that have been surveyed and what still needs to be surveyed. The map comes up pretty easily. Like I showed you that map last month with all the red dots on it. And that's a really good way to determine what's already been surveyed and what hasn't been. And so I've gone and compared, and we're doing about 1/6 of the city, but we have a lot more. And of course, a big chunk of it is the folks doing the Edison survey because they're just plowing along pretty regularly too. So,
yeah.
Okay, so that's it for the survey.
Okay. Can you stop screen sharing, please, Sharon?
Oh yeah, wait a minute. Let me see. How do I, I thought okay. Stop. Bingo. Yay. There, we're all back again.
Okay, moving on to the cemetery project. Kyle, you have no update?
Yeah, I don't really know where things stand. I'm sort of waiting on dates, and I'm sure we'll set up cleaning volunteer days, but I don't know what the city's doing, and we haven't figured out the whole email transfer. And so, yeah, I don't have anything to say.
I have one more thing that I think might work.
Okay.
Yeah, with the email. So I'm working on it. I was thinking that at minimum, I should have just shared the drive to you because that's where all the spreadsheets are. So at minimum, I will do that. And at maximum, I'm hoping to be successful.
I mean, ultimately, that's just a contact list, right? So
yeah,
whenever we want to put
so
something
that's
together.
a contact list and the full PDF of the instructions that we gave everybody on the map locations for everything and cleaning and all of that. So,
well, I can do a verbal update because things have been moving, I mean, really very fast in terms of public services. We have the volunteer team of contractors that want to work on the Sexton's Lodge. We have approval from Public Services to do that. They are going to do minor repairs that just need to be done. They're going to fix the storm windows, tighten them up, give them a coat of paint. They're going to paint all the exterior wood on the building. And I am meeting with a couple people to give, because I've been given approval for me to choose the color that wood will be painted. And I can find no evidence of what the original color was. So anyway, so we're gonna be choosing that on Friday, buying the paint and supplying it to the contractors team probably next week, and they will get started at their own rate to repair the wood that needs to be repaired, put a couple of sash weight covers in place that are missing, that type of thing on the Sexton's Lodge. We are also getting a meeting with a team of people that can do a condition assessment of the two buildings for us and make recommendations for upgrades that need to be made and how the buildings can be purposed or repurposed. That's going to be towards the end of June. I believe from what I heard from Public Services that the funding is there to use, assuming that the costs come out where we can actually fit it into the funding that's available. So that's huge steps forward in terms of progress. Diane and her team of strong people have been lifting up gravestones out of the dirt. And she and I are going to be getting together next week to flag the ones that need to be scrubbed because they've been face down in dirt for anywhere from 10 to 30 years. And so we're going to do that. And we also would like to set up a day to scrub the outside of the Sexton's Lodge as well. Just water, maybe a little bit. There's this very gentle detergent you can use, just enough to get the black schmutz from being near West Main forever off the stones, because the original color is kind of a warm buff sandstone color. And that when you see it now, you think there's a lot of gray or black in it, and it's not. It's really a very nice sandstone tones. And then on the east side, there's also the tones of the granite foundation. So we want to set up a cleaning day where we'd work on both the house and for people who were a little bit less happy on lead or scrubbing gravestones. And Public Works says they will be happy to provide lunch, and they're going to make sure that the bathrooms in the Sexton's Lodge work. So they see this as a way to get people engaged with the cemetery and a sense of ownership and taking care of it. So Kyle, I'm going to start looping you into some of those communications just so you have an idea of what's up. Okay. But it's just literally, this has been the last 2 weeks. Suddenly it's like picked up from being like 5 miles an hour to about 35.
Okay.
So it's just, and we've got the weather for it too. So.
Okay. No, excellent. Moving on to Preservation Month, Regina. And I guess Sharon too.
Yeah, Sharon too. And I don't think Neil is on, but also Neil. Yeah, so we had our meeting on the 26th. It was, of course, a little weird because it was virtual for the first time. And I think I realized how weird it was to not be in person as we were sitting there. And I was like, this is really weird. But I really enjoyed the presentation that Neil put together for us. And I think that will be something that I know Sharon enjoyed it too, or I think Sharon enjoyed it too. But I think that we've said that might be something that stays as part of the celebration. Maybe not necessarily that same format or anything like that, but it really made a difference to be able to share the spaces with people in that way that we can't really do without, like dragging everybody from site to site, which is kind of hard to do and expensive, buses. But being able to kind of really, like, people literally opening the doors to their spaces and talking about their spaces made it special, though it was in a different format than we've had. For anybody who was able to view it, though, love opinions, likes, dislikes, whatever your thoughts are. I know Lene sent a nice email.
I thought it was awesome. I thought that each property had just enough time. Like, you didn't spend a whole lot of time on one property that I don't even know what you're talking about. But I thought that, you showed the specific portions that gave the reason of why they were awarded their award. And I thought that the three of you were very professional, articulate, and brief at the beginning and the end. I enjoyed the introduction from Josh, it gave a high level of what's going on, and then he brought it down to each of the individual properties. But yeah, I don't, I've never been to the other programs you guys have had, but this one here, I have to say I really enjoyed, because I educated myself and I was very impressed.
I think one of the things I really like is now there's going to be a record of the people talking about their projects.
Yeah.
Which before, when we just had it all live, much as Tony's cookies were a really important part of that, we don't have that record. So I think this is just, that's one of the reasons I really liked it.
Yeah.
Pam?
I thought it was great too. It was really well organized. It was well filmed. The record is, I think, also really important, as Sharon mentioned. But I also have a question. Has anybody shared it with the city commission? That should be part of the process, making sure it gets into their hands. That way, if they're inclined, at least they can watch it. And if they're not, they don't have to. It's not a requirement, but just a courtesy message to them that says, here's what we did, might be a good thing.
They were invited. They were on the list of people that were invited to.
Right.
Attend. So I don't know whether they did or not, but maybe just a short note going out and saying, if you'd like to see it, it's only a half hour. It's not a lot of time, it'd be nice to. So yeah, that's a nice idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And now I'm going to go around and find those buildings so I can see for myself.
Right. Any other comments or questions? Thanks for your work on that too, Regina.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know we said it the night of, but a big thank you to Neil and Sharon, who did kind of a lot of, or I know Neil did a lot of the running around and editing and filming, and another congratulations to Sharon for her award. And I know talking about yourself was probably awkward, but I really appreciated the setting that you did it in, and I think it was, I quite liked it.
Okay, moving on to designation and sites. I know this is Catherine and Fred, but Sharon actually has the update on the letter. So,
okay, the as it says in the agenda, the city manager gets a report for every meeting, and this letter and the text about it is going to go in the packet that the city commission gets for their June 21st meeting. Okay, now also more about designation is that the first reading of the ordinance amendment that means that First Baptist Church will become a local historic district is also going to be probably at the June 21st meeting. I've submitted all the documents that they need, and so it should be on the agenda for the June 21st meeting. And then the second reading, because when there's an ordinance change, you read it at one meeting, and that's just sort of like, this is going to happen. And then at the next meeting is when you have a public hearing about that ordinance change. And that'll be at the first meeting in July, I believe it's the 7th. So that'll be the second reading. And assuming that the city commission votes to approve it, it will go into effect that they will need to do review for any exterior changes starting 10 days later. So that'll be the 17th of July. They'll be officially part of the local historic district. So that looks like everything is in place. I'm not going to give it, I'm giving it about a 90%, but there's always something that can happen at the last minute that's unexpected that displaces things. And at this point in time, though, everything has been submitted, and I think that we're all set to go on the June 21st city commission meeting. I'm planning to be available. Of course, it's virtual, to answer questions. And then the meeting in July will actually be a short hearing, which I will make sure that I notify everybody at First Baptist and KNAC that it's going to happen. If they want to just be able to send in comments in advance or anything like that, that would be useful. And it's a single resource. I don't see any issue why it wouldn't pass, but we have to wait and see before we know for sure.
Any questions or comments for Sharon? Pam?
Thanks for the report on First Baptist, Sharon. I appreciate that. I just wanted to make a comment to the rest of the commission, and that is that I'm not sure that I communicated with anyone or sent anything about this, but many months ago when we started talking about trying to help support the idea of a more inclusive and all-encompassing history of the city, we talked very briefly about the Detroit survey that was done that is specific to its civil rights history, and that Muskegon is now doing one, again, with the help of the SHPO. Did I tell you all that I talked with the SHPO and they said they would be happy to talk with you about doing a similar project in Kalamazoo, which would result in National Register nominations and things of that nature, and would be willing to talk about helping cover the cost of that. And if there's any cost to the city, that's in part what the O'Connor Fund is there for. So I just wanted to put that back on your plate again, because I think if it is of interest, you probably shouldn't waste a lot of time before a lot of other communities get on the, I hate to use the term gravy train, but you know, if there are other communities that are waiting to do this and know that this possibility exists, probably be a good idea to be ahead of them.
Yeah, I think that should happen very soon, seeing as it's also the leading kind of mission right now of this commission.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was just talking to Michelle Johnson yesterday and before a meeting. So we and I just chatting on Zoom about, and she's working with Truth and Racial Healing at the Community Foundation. And she's especially working at cultural landscapes and missing historic sites, essentially. So I think that we would probably want to have a discussion with her or other people that are already engaged in exploring that. I would hate to truncate their project, but I would like to, I bet you they would be quite happy to see it augment what they're doing, or maybe take the lead, and then we decide, then, you know, we as a group decide how we're going to actually use the report.
That has been the process in the other communities. There has been a locally appointed group of people whose histories are typically not told that are spearheading the effort. And this would be a great opportunity, you know, that's the time, you know, I mean, it's a really, because we already have that group or some of what might be that group, it positions Kalamazoo, I think, even better.
Pam, you would be in touch with Catherine and Fred about that then, and we can start looking into this?
Yeah, if you could kind of write up sort of a quick synopsis of what that is for me, then I could forward it on to Michelle and to other folks that are working in that area and say, look, we need to talk. We need to sit down and talk so that we can see whether we can make use of this possible funding opportunity and study opportunity and, you know, whatever.
Well, I've been sending information right along as I have found it, but probably the best way to go about it is for Fred and Catherine and you, Sharon, to talk to Amy Arnold. Amy's going to be retiring soon, so the sooner the better. And she can give you a better idea of the big picture about how it happened.
I've got it on my list of people to contact then.
Okay.
I would have thought something like that would have gone under the diversity and inclusion.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But we've been waiting.
Yeah, we have.
Direction.
Well, and Sharon, I don't know if Michelle said in her meeting, and I know we've been wanting to hear from Dorla about when she can join a meeting, but I think Michelle could come to our July meeting if we wanted to talk about, I don't know if she mentioned it to you when you talked with her.
No, but okay. I will talk. We were talking about possibly repurposing Mr. President's.
Ooh.
Yeah, so she was very happy when I was able to send her maps and a history and all that kind of stuff. So
now that hits close to home, literally. I can see Mr. President's from my office.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, if you're, I know we kind of wanted to make sure that Dorla was in, but if this timing works to talk about this specifically,
Yeah. Okay, so I will contact Amy about what that possibility is, what that opportunity might be. And then I will get with Michelle and send her some information about it, and Dorla, and say, can we meet? Can we talk about how this might be something that the Preservation Commission can bring to the table to, support what you guys are doing?
Sharon, I'd love to be included in any involve all of it. Happy to.
Yeah, my note says just to copy
Yeah.
you in.
Okay.
Yeah,
just wanted
delegate.
to make sure. Yeah.
Delegate.
Yeah.
Right, especially as retirement looms near.
Yeah.
I have to start practicing that, I guess.
And I would think that you would want the diversity and the inclusion
Yeah, absolutely.
in
Mhm.
there too. So
Absolutely. Yep. That's what I'd put this under. Right now we had it under designation, but I think we'll, this part of it will go under diversity and inclusion. And I don't know if you noticed that I reorganized the agenda so that it follows the pattern of the work plan.
Yeah.
So they're in that order.
like it.
So, Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this? Okay. Discussion on sustainability in the Hidden Kalamazoo book is postponed until July. So unless, Sharon, you have an update, no, moving to July. Okay. So operations, we're going to be dealing with some of this under old and new business, especially trying to fill seats. I'm going to add to that also and make a public announcement now. July will be my last meeting with this commission. So I'm going to be stepping down as chair and resigning from the commission because I've been offered a faculty position with a different university, and I'm going to be leaving Kalamazoo in July. So my last meeting will be the July meeting, and I will be I'll no longer officially be with this commission as of July 15th. So yeah.
Congratulations, Josh.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's gonna have to be dealt with in July and August as well for you all. But yeah, so next month will be my last. That's the only update that I have right now. I mean, I guess it's a big update, but that's the only update that I have right now. So moving on to old and new business, ending the project of Kalamazoo Lost and Found. So, and this is item C in your packet. And I'll turn it over to Pam.
Yeah, I'm going to augment what you have there with a little bit of information about what's happened since I prepared this for the packet. As of tomorrow at this time, all of our clearance orders will have been delivered and paid for. I've got a check right now. I'll be picking up another one. Those will be our last two checks for this part of the program. And they will total almost $11,000 or $1,100. I wish it was $11,000, but $1,100. The only thing left to do in terms of disbursement is for Sharon to find out from the city how we can distribute books to city employees, if it's possible, and if so, when it's going to be possible. Now,
I can talk about that for just a second.
Oh, great.
I have contacted the city manager's office. They are very interested in having a box of each to have in stock for them to give away to people that visit or for whatever reason they want to. So that's hardcover and soft cover. And then I also offered individual copies to staff people in the city manager's office, and they are doing a poll right now to see who would like them. They have not yet decided whether there will be a city employees appreciation day, which we usually have in Bronson Park. They serve us ice cream and pat us on the back for lasting for 10 years and that kind of thing. And I'm hoping that they're looking into whether if we do have that, we can probably set up a table and give them away to people who are interested. But we don't know until we know whether that event is going to happen. We don't know whether that opportunity to distribute is going to happen. And the books have arrived in my office and are occupying about 2/3 of a cubicle.
Well, let me say the sooner the better, because we have an offer. We had I had some email conversation with, I don't remember whether I copied all of you or just Sharon and Josh, but Gloria Tiller, who owns Kazoo Books, is very interested in actually owning whatever residual inventory we have. And I talked with her about scenarios in terms of pricing. She said that she would be happy to buy them, subject to numbers, but I gave her an outside figure of 3,500 copies may be remaining. As it turns out, we don't have that many left right now. So it's going to be probably under 3,000 at minimum. But what the offer that we discussed and that she said that she could support was that she would buy the remaining inventory at $1 a book, whatever number that is. At first she said she wasn't sure if she could do it until she got her new warehouse put up, but I don't know if she has approval yet from the city to do that. And since then she has said that she can find other space if we're interested. And once she has exhausted the inventory that she just purchased from us, which was over a $1,000 order, she would be more than happy to donate $5 per book back to the O'Connor Fund on either a quarterly and every 6 month or an annual basis. Now that could be some years out because she bought a lot of books at $5 a copy. So by the time she depletes that inventory and gets into the rest of it, it could be a while. A lot of that is dependent on how much she decides to sell them for, right? So that is the thing that we agreed on, with the details to be worked out later. If you give me the authority to go ahead and work out those details and draw up some sort of a sales agreement. So if you decide you'd like me to do that, that is an action item. And I also have to tell you that giving a case to the city manager's office is also an action item. So whoever makes a motion, if a motion is made, it will need to include both of those items. Does anyone have any questions about what we discussed? I will tell you that the records office would be very pleased to not have them. They are looking for a newer, smaller space right now. And Gloria can be prepared to take them as soon as we can get her an agreement and we know what our final residual inventory is. So it would serve a number of purposes by eliminating the inventory, the record keeping for you all and that kind of thing. Fred?
I'd like to know what they plan to sell the book for, to see if there's any wiggle room to. It seems like buying the books for $1 a book. What do you think, that is a pretty good deal, or do you think that's?
Well, yeah, and the previous discussion is to give them away, Fred.
Or throw them
So
away.
it's better than that. Yeah.
Or throw them away.
Right. But I guess I'd like to see what they plan to sell it for. Like you said, that might adjust some of the pricing.
No, I mean, okay.
I don't
go
think we're
ahead.
in a position to dictate that.
Okay.
We never have. She has always sold them for slightly under suggested retail price.
Okay.
So I wouldn't suggest we go down that path.
Okay. I know the lady and buy a lot of books from her. So yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Sharon,
So,
did you have a comment?
I'm kind of the same thing that you were saying. I think that as an opportunity and the alternative is just sending them to the landfill. I think this is an absolutely wonderful opportunity, and that having them available for people, being able to refer them to a place where they could probably get a copy for the next several years, it's going to be very useful.
Okay.
So the only other thing that I can report, generally speaking, is that digitization for Lost and Found is moving along really quickly. That's in part why I've been super busy and haven't worked on the O'Connor Fund grant end. Peter turned over a high-res copy of the full digitization to me this morning. And I'll be spending some time over the next week or so going through, looking at images, looking at resolution, checking, just doing an eyeballing of a print copy to the digital copy. And at that point, unless there's something that comes up really, really weird and strange, that part will be done probably before your next meeting. KPL, I'm also happy to report, has begun already scanning Walking Through Time. And I got an email from Keith Howard yesterday and said, okay, we have 3 different ways we can look at this page. And number 1 is a clean shot of the page as it has been disassembled from the book. So what I saw was a slightly yellowed small page with a clear mark of where the binding was. And then he showed me a copy on a grayscale, and then he showed me a black and white copy. And I will tell you that I gave him permission to use the unadorned original version, because back at the beginning of Lost and Found, we said we should not be altering images in any way because that leads people to believe there's a different story. And this is an old book. It's a 40-plus-year-old book,
So
or
okay.
about 40.
So you're
40-year-old.
talking about 19th century homes now, because you just said Camels
No.
of Lost and Found.
I'm sorry. Walking Through Times is what I'm talking about. The little one.
Yeah,
The exploding binding book.
right.
And so, and we will hold that rule with when he gets into 19th century homes, we will hold to that same rule. No cropping, no alteration, make it stand up straight and look like what it is.
But will it be yellowish or will it be a clear black and white copy?
That depends on what your copy, the copy that you gave him of 19th century homes.
It was in excellent condition. It shouldn't be yellowed at all.
Then that's the way it'll look.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Should we, because we have 2 motions that we need to make at this point? Is that right?
They can be made in one,
In one?
but
Okay.
but it doesn't really matter. So one point is to give a box to the help me out, Pam. The
A
city.
box each of hardcovers and softcovers. I'd like to suggest, because the hardcovers are only 9 to a box, the softcovers are 18 to a box, that we actually give 2 boxes of hardcovers and 1 box, 18 copies each, to the city manager's office. And the second would be to give me the authority to continue to talk with Gloria and start to develop a sales document for the remainder using the terms that I explained to you earlier, and to come back with a draft that would then have to be reviewed by the city attorney and all of that stuff, because there's a continuing commitment on the buyer's part.
So
I
then-
move to give the city 18 books of soft and 18 books of hard, and to create a sales contract for Kazoo.
Is there a second?
I second, or
You know,
Catherine does too.
All right. So this is roll call vote. Fred,
Aye.
Kyle,
Aye.
Regina,
Aye.
Catherine,
Hi.
Lene,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Pam.
Yeah, thank you, Pam.
Please let's not vote to give any more away, because every time we give more away, I have to make another visit to the records office.
Okay, moving to approval of meeting notes from last month's meeting, from May 12th. Oh, no, sorry. That's my fault. I jumped the gun. So still under old and new business, consider the application from Joseph Burkhead to fill the vacant commission seat. However, in my meeting with Sharon, kind of my monthly meeting to lead up to this, Sharon and I realized that we can't approve this as of right now, because Joseph is not a resident of Kalamazoo. Now, typically the commission does allow for a handful, but to live outside of the city of Kalamazoo. But currently, we're at the maximum number of commissioners for this commission who are not city residents. Once I step down, this won't be necessarily an issue because I'm one of those people, but this is going to have to be kicked back until at least August to consider his application. Now, we could get another application next month, in between this meeting and next month, that could be considered, but we can't consider Joseph's until at least August. So,
and I emailed him today and told him what the situation was. And he understands and he says, good, I'll just check back in with you in July.
Yeah. So okay. So I suggest that you push that one down the road for a little bit. Pam, you had your hand up.
Yeah, quick question. Have any of the commission members talked with the applicant? Does anyone know him?
Didn't he come
or-
to our last meeting?
He was at our last meeting.
Was he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
At our last meeting.
Yeah, and we chatted with him for what, about five minutes?
Mm-hmm.
That was the one that I left early on, so thank you.
Yeah, he was at last month's meeting, but right now it's kind of a moot point. So I would suggest that, if in August or whatever you all decide to consider his application, have him come back and talk to him again as well. But okay, now moving on to the approval of last month's meeting notes. Did anybody see anything?
I didn't really see anything, but
In giving it another look, I didn't see anything either. Okay, is there a motion to approve?
To approve the meeting minutes of May 12th.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Coordinators report. Sharon.
There you go. There's the engraved bricks. This is actually from Fort Wayne. This is one of the things they do with bricks. They just, put things like in, and I love this because I love this specific quote because this is exactly what we're doing with the mound in Bronson Park. It was there. It was kind of invisible because nobody knew exactly what it was. But with what's going to happen over the next few months, we're making that history visible again. So I just love that quote. And it's also a sample of how bricks can be used fairly simply. This is set along the edge of the street between the sidewalk and the curb in the downtown at Fort Wayne.
Sharon, would you read the quote for this?
Oh, it says, change happens when you make the invisible visible. And that's a local person, Reverend Patty Crisp, the director of Charles Cheris House, 2008. So I just really, really like that. So this is just ideas to throw into your brain to think of how we might move forward in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So building permits are up a little bit, not an awful lot, but I'm getting we're getting some larger projects that are coming through, some changes, not inappropriate ones, but some obviously pent up demand for getting more done. So that's a really good thing. The Section 106 reviews are way up over last year, which is not surprising. Last year was a pretty dormant year for the federally funded projects throughout the city. If you have time, click on the link in the report and go and take a look at the Michigan SHPO's 5-year plan. I've included the vision for Michigan, the way that they made a visual model of it, I really, really liked. And this is part of their 5-year plan. So I wanted just to include it in our packet so you could see the wheel of vision for Michigan and historic issues that they have put together. And I really like that. Especially the shared preservation program includes underrepresented communities, increases participation in underdocumented regions of the state, and establishes new partnerships. I really like that. And then this is our list of buildings. This may change again because with the discussions that were going on today for Mr. President, we might very well see a substantial change in that within the next year as well. So for those of you who are a little younger in terms of the commission, the buildings that have red HK, those are the ones we had on the Hidden Kalamazoo tour, and they are eligible for tax credits or not, depending on what it says. But this list has gotten shorter. It was originally like 24 buildings. So I think in part the Hidden Kalamazoo tour had a little bit to do with bringing people's attention to unoccupied upper floors and encouraging that they be redeveloped in some way. Because once you get people inside, then their imagination can get started. The Coney Island building is probably going to start, I'd say probably mid-July. They're actually going to start doing some of the work that needs to be done. They're going to final site plan review in about 2 weeks. And they're
So
ready.
they're not going to wait for the tax credit, huh?
Nope. Tried really hard. Lots of emails, lots of phone calls. Didn't want to wait for it. So unfortunately, I'm offered to go in and to salvage all of the hardware because there's some really nice hardware on all those hotel rooms. Don't know whether they'll take me up on it. So we're making some good progress. We really are. We're getting some buildings repurposed, and we're running out of old buildings. As I said, the Coney Island building is the last large unredeveloped building downtown. It's the last one. Yeah, Fred?
As one of the younger members on the commission, I'm young and naive. What is the Mr. President's building? You're talking about the President's building.
Right at the end of Eleanor Street. If you
By the park?
it's on the left. It's a brick building. We had it on the Hidden Kalamazoo tour 1 year, and just after that, the timing was perfect. He opened up in August again for the first time in I think 20 years. For about a year, I think he was open. And it's just been vacant. It's just been
It's not the President's Tavern down by Arcadia.
Yeah, it is. That's it. Yeah, Mr.
That's
President.
it. Okay.
Yep. It's
Okay.
been closed now again for the second time, probably about 4 or 5 years.
It's been quite a few years because
Yeah.
somebody was trying to redevelop the back portion into a barbecue place.
I remember
They
that.
did that before it was on the tour.
Yeah.
They did that, they did that because they wanted to be able to have it open when there was events happening at the festival site.
Right.
But I don't think they ever, maybe more than once or twice, managed to have that open and totally permitted when there was a festival going on.
Yeah.
So it never quite really worked the way that they hoped it would. But
I was guessing it was it, but thanks for
that's
explaining
the
it.
one. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And sharing the update on traditional trades.
That is kind of up in the air. I am meeting. This kind of gets complex because they had agreed that they wanted to do a class that could train in window rehab, could train like maintenance people for landlords and homeowners and contractors that are already doing work in the basics of window rehab to at least get the lower sash working in windows. So that the target audience would be maintenance people for landlords. It would be some homeowners, but then it would especially be contractors who are already working on houses, so they could just add that simple skill set. How do you replace ropes? How do you put in the spring bronze weather stripping? Just the real simple stuff. The person I had thought of as my possible instructor seems to have disappeared off the face of the earth. So I am still in discussions to try to find the instructor and see if they're still interested, or to find someone else that can do it, because KVCC thought it was a pretty good idea.
Okay.
So it's kind of like suspended right now, and I'm trying to make that contact.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. All right. Any citizen comments on non-agenda items?
There are no citizen comments at this time.
Okay. Pam, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I have a question and a couple of comments. When I was in the park on Sunday, Bronson Park, I looked over to the former First Reformed Church site and wondered, has anyone done any archaeological work there? Particularly with regard to the fact that they're getting ready to undertake their, whatever that is, I don't remember. And B, its proximity to the mound. Just a question that I'm hanging out there.
Yeah, I don't know.
there may be some potential for something. And a comment, a two-part comment. At the end of this year, I'm going to step down as one of your volunteers. It's time to just go do other stuff. And so I'm going to retire with Sharon. And there are two things that I would like very much to stay involved with, and that is moving the O'Connor Fund along to the point where it's a functioning, supportive, financially supportive effort to do the work that the commission is supposed to be doing. And two, I made a promise to carry out a local historic district study for City Hall, and I will be happy to carry that out.
Okay. Thank you, Pam.
Mhm.
Thank you.
We're gonna lose a lot of institutional knowledge here, guys.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
I'm not going anywhere either. I just need, it's time to go do some other stuff.
Okay.
She
I'm-
didn't say
we both-
never call me.
We both had
Didn't say
birthdays
lose my
last month, and it was
number.
kind of like, ding. Yeah,
I, on the other hand, I'm leaving. So
I know, but you're not going very far.
I'm out of here. But
Where are you going, Josh?
we'll talk about that later. It's going to take
Okay.
me a little bit of time to unpack myself from some other things still. But yeah,
I was being nosy, I guess.
no, fair enough. Commissioner,
Call me.
Commissioner comments.
Just
Thank you,
congratulations to
Josh,
Jess.
and-
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We're in the same wavelength, Regina.
yeah, same,
Say
same.
thank you and congratulations to Josh and thank you to Pam and Sharon and everybody.
Yeah.
We're not gone yet.
Yeah, I'll still be here next month too. But okay, then somebody can move to adjourn and we're done for the night.
I move for adjournment.
Meeting adjourned.
Good
Right,
night,
thanks, y'all.
everyone.
Good
Take it easy,
night.
everybody.
I'll see everybody.